It's Christmas Eve and US soldiers are preparing for their last months in Afghanistan. About 40,000 are still here. By the end of the year, there'll be just 8,000. We traveled to Afghanistan in the midst of this transition. But on the base, we found a story that isn't being told. The people doing the day-to-day work here are mostly civilian contract workers. Men from India and Nepal who travel to a war zone just for the promise of a good job. For many of them, that promise turned out to be a lie. They ended up deceived and indebted, victims of human traffickers who thrive on military contracts. Fault Lines examines the lives of these workers and investigates how the American military has come to rely on an indentured workforce. Camp Marmal is the largest base in northern Afghanistan. NATO's mission here centers on training the Afghan National Army.
The complexity sometimes is, when we first got here, as I started thinking about it, it almost becomes overwhelming. But
this is the U.S. Regional Garrison Commander, responsible for daily operations in the north.
There's a lot of great contractors that come up here, local nationals, third country nationals, U.S. expats that are all really good. They work together.
And what are the contractors doing? Just support
everything,
stuff?
Everything you could think of. They work in the dining facilities. They help maintain the living facilities. What it does is it allows the soldiers to concentrate on their primary mission rather than having a lot of extra duties. We could not do our mission without them. Yeah, they do a good job for us.
2 American companies manage the military's facilities in Afghanistan: the Fluor Corporation and DynCorp International. These companies are called prime contractors because the U.S. government hired them directly.
They all work together and do an outstanding job of serving us really, really good food.
Fluor manages Camp Marmal, but most of the contract workers here work for smaller companies, subcontractors, which Fluor hires to handle basic tasks: cooking, cleaning, and laundry.
And there is sort of the enjoyment of watching your food made right in front of you, right?
The people serving food here work for these subcontractors.
I think you just made their day. That was very sweet.
Christmas dinner. On the face of it, it's a little odd. American and European troops being served by Indians and Nepalis in Afghanistan. The workers line up separately for Indian food. When we requested to film here, the military had to ask permission from Fluor. Fluor denied our request. But I did chat with the workers in Hindi and Tamil when we ran into them on the base.
आप इंडिया से हैं? कहाँ से आप? पंजाब से हैं। अच्छा, कितने साल से यहाँ?
मेरे को तो अभी 14 महीने हो गए।
मटेरियल्स ये फ्लोर के साथ या एकलो?
मतलब सब कॉन्ट्रैक्टर है फ्लोर के। सब कुछ मिस करते हैं अपनी यारी दोस्ती जो घर पे था छोड़ के आए हैं, मम्मी का प्यार, डैडी का प्यार।
It wasn't long before I heard about a unique aspect of their employment. To get these jobs, they all had to pay fees to recruiting agents.
बहुत ज़्यादा थे यार?
मतलब बहुत ज़्यादा $4,000 के आसपास थे।
बहुत ज़्यादा है? मंथली सैलरी कितना है डॉलर्स में?
मंथली सैलरी हमारी मेरी 750।
तब 6 महीने के लिए आप फ्री?
अब 6 महीने का अगर हो गया तो बस बाद में अपना ही है सारा।
कितना पैसे दिए?
तो 1.5 लाख।
बहुत ज़्यादा।
सब आदमी दे गए हैं।
अच्छा, कितना?
जितना आदमी आता सभी तो दिया है।
अंतना याजन मुड़े में अंता अड़सिला ಒಂದು ಗಾಡಿ ವಾಂಗರೆ ನಮ್ಮ ಗಾಡಿ ವಾಂಗರೆ ನಾ ಸಿರೆಂಟ್ ವರವಾಳಿ ಇಲ್ಲ ಕಾಸು ಕೊಡ್ತಾವ.
I asked several people if they would speak to me on camera about how they were recruited to Afghanistan. Most were hesitant, not wanting to jeopardize their jobs. But a few hours later, I got a message.
One of the workers I met at the dining hall just contacted me. He wants to talk to us about his story. It isn't easy to talk openly on this base, even though he's right here. So we're trying to find a place to meet.
The worker asked us to conceal his identity and alter his voice. We'll call him Ravi. He told us to meet him at an empty part of the base after he finished his shift.
Basically, TCNC is working like a lower class of job. They are getting the low salary.
Ravi told us he was tricked into working in Afghanistan for a salary that was less than half of what he was promised. It started when a friend back home introduced Ravi to a recruiting agent who told him that for a hefty fee he could get a job in Afghanistan working for DynCorp. He would fly to Dubai, where he would connect with DynCorp and then travel to the base.
And he said that he gonna send me for the Dino crop, and I will get basically 1200 USD per month.
But there was a catch. The job at DynCorp didn't actually exist. Instead, the agent housed Ravi in a work camp in Dubai. After 3 weeks, the agent told him that for an additional fee, he could get Ravi a job with a subcontractor, Ecolog.
When I go to the Ecolog to get my contract, and I saw my contract, there was only $500.
So you were promised a job at DynCorp,
Yeah.
$1,200,
Yup.
and then you got a job at Ecolog
Yup.
for $500.
Yup. And I told that agent, I called him and I said, I want to come back. I don't want to go for 500 because it's not enough for me. They said, I don't want to give you back. So I didn't have another choice. So at least 500 is better than nothing. So that's why I came.
How much money did you pay the agent?
I paid totally $4,000 US dollar, and when I came first, I got $500. You can calculate how much I need to work to get that money back. It's at least 8 months, and the interest, so it's like 1 year.
Ravi had been recruited under fraudulent terms that compelled him to work for a year simply to pay off his debt. According to the US State Department and the United Nations, this is human trafficking, illegal under US and international law.
And not only me, there were like 30-40 people who signed the contract same time, and everybody they have a same salary.
What percentage of workers paid fees to agents in order to get here?
99.99.
These people decided that today they will be arrested.
I know that means Chevelle.
People are not getting the candidates.
This is a crime against humanity.
They're running just the explosions going on. We're not quite sure what it is.
To watch more episodes of the Emmy Award-winning series Fault Lines, check your local listings or visit aljazeera.com.
We wanted to talk to more people who'd worked these jobs. But to do so, we had to go far outside the war, where they could speak more openly. We found them in the rural heartland of southern India, in the state of Tamil Nadu.
The main issue when we talk about trafficking, we can call it as a bonded labor. It's all start because they have to pay an amount to get the job.
Sindhu Kavinamanal used to work for a subcontractor in Kuwait. Now she advocates on behalf of migrant laborers. Over the last 8 years, she's interviewed hundreds of contract workers in Iraq and Afghanistan.
And that will make you work anywhere. It doesn't matter it's a war zone. It doesn't matter if you're given a good food or a good accommodation. These men are ready to sacrifice.
Govind Nagaram is a village of 6,000 people, several hours from the closest airport. Locals estimate that 80 to 90% of men here have worked in Iraq or Afghanistan.
If you have a regular job, you might get 5,000 rupees, that's $100 for a month. But what the agents promise you, you'll get $800 for a month. Yeah, even I will think of moving back there to get a job.
We visited a small tea shop, and word spread that we were looking to talk to people who had worked on bases. It turned out this man serving tea himself had been recruited for a job in Afghanistan with Supreme, a contractor that supplies food and fuel to NATO.
Supreme company சொன்ன வேலை இங்க சுப்ரீம்ல வேலை வரும் சொன்னாங்க. என்ன வேலை?
இந்த கிச்சன்
எவ்வளவு சம்பளம்னு சொன்னாங்க? $600.
துபாயிலிருந்து அவங்க இன்டர்வியூ பண்ணி அங்கேருந்து கூட்டு போனாங்க. துபாயில் 37 நாள், ஒரு மாதம். அப்பார்ட்மெண்ட்டில் 40-50 பேர் வருவாங்க. அந்த டயத்தில் ஈராக் வர அனுப்பி வருவாங்க, போவாங்க, அனுப்பி விடுவாங்க. கம்பெனி கான்ட்ராக்ட் பூரா கேன்சல் ஆகி போச்சு அப்படின்ட்டு திருப்பி ஊருக்கு அனுப்பிட்டாங்க.
நீங்கள் எவ்வளோ பணம் கட்டினீங்க? எவ்வளோ காசு கொடுத்தீங்க?
1,25,000.
Whether they made it to Afghanistan or not, everyone here had a story about how they had been cheated. This man, Nagaraj, paid $3,000 to an agent for a job as a cook in Afghanistan. But when he arrived at the base, he was told he would be working as a waiter for a much lower salary. At Bagram, the largest US base in Afghanistan, Nagaraj worked for Ecolog, the same company that Ravi had told us about. Ecolog is one of the most prominent subcontractors in Afghanistan, working on both floor and DynCorp contracts.
email check பண்ணுவீங்க? Email Skype check பண்ணுவாங்களா?
செக் பண்ணுவாங்க, ஃபயர் பண்ணிடுவாங்க
immediately.
24 ஹவர்ஸ்ல ஃபயர் பண்ணி பிடிச்சா 24 ஹவர்ஸ்ல ஃபயர் பண்ணுவாங்க.
It's completely controlled on fear. The fear of losing the job, and the fear of losing the job is because they are in debt back home. Losing a job is like you're coming back to shame and debt, and what's my future after that? You're here, I own you, and you work here. If you don't want to, you go back home. But what about the money you paid? You didn't pay me. You paid to the agent. I didn't know about the money you paid. Do you have a paper to show?
Being fired is especially daunting because most people borrowed money to pay their recruiter at interest rates of 25 to 40%.
நகை வாங்கி சொசைட்டி கூட்டுறவு பேங்க்கில் வந்து அடமானம் வச்சு வட்டிக்கு தான் வச்சோம். இப்படி தான் கடன் வாங்கி தான் இது பண்ணோம். சொந்த காசுலாம் கிடையாது.
Ganesh and Subaya had to come up with $2,500. At the time, he earned just $2 a day.
நிறைய பேர் கடன் தான் மேடம், சொந்த காசு யார்கிட்ட இருக்காது. ஏன்னா பெரிய பணக்காரங்களும் போகிறதில்ல வெளிநாட்டுக்கு, கஷ்டப்படுறவங்க போகிறாங்க.
Ganeshan paid for a job in Afghanistan with a subcontractor called Prime Projects International, or PPI. But PPI sent him to an American base in an entirely different country.
அங்கே போய் சைன் பண்ணும்போது எனக்கு திடீர்னு ட்ரான்ஸ்ஃபர் ஆகிடுச்சு ஜிபூதிக்கு. அவங்க என்ன சொன்னாங்க, கான்ட்ராக்டில் $500 ஒன்லின்னாங்க. நான் ஷாக் ஆகி போச்சு. நான் சென்னையில் கேட்கும்போது $800 சொன்னாங்க, பக்ரம்னு சொன்னாங்க ஆப்கானிஸ்தான்ட்டு. இப்போ என்ன $500 சொல்கிறீங்கன்னு கேட்டேன். இஷ்டம் தான் இரு, இல்லாட்டி கிளம்புட்டாங்க. நான் எப்படி கிளம்ப முடியும் சொல்லுங்கள்? 1 லட்சத்துக்கு தான் கொடுத்துருக்கேன். அதனால் பயந்துக்கிட்டு சரி இதாவது வருதுன்ட்டு தான் நான் இப்போ போனோம். அப்போ $800ங்கிறது $500 ஆகி அக்ரிமெண்ட் சைன் வாங்கிட்டாங்க.
வீட்டு பத்திரத்தை வச்சு தான் நான் பணம் வாங்கியே போனேன். இந்த லேண்டு, இந்த வீடு.
Rajesh Kumar worked at Camp Dwyer in Afghanistan, making $780 a month. But in a year's work there, he only earned about $2,000. The rest, 75% of his wages, went towards the loan to pay the agent.
எனக்கு அங்கே போய் பெனிஃபிட்னா ஒரு 3 month 4 month சேலரி அவ்வளோதான் எனக்கு கையில் கிடச்சிரு. வேறு ஒன்று என் வீட்டை திருப்பினேன். 3 months 4 months சேலரி தான் என் கையில் இருந்தது.
Rajesh was strung along by 5 successive agents, each of whom charged an additional fee.
அவர் பேர் சன்னி மேடம், துபாயில் இருக்கார். இங்கேருந்து மிஸ் சுமித்ரான்னு சென்னையில் ஒரு ஏஜென்சி வச்சு அவங்க ட்ராவல்ஸ் வச்சு நடத்திட்டு இருந்தாங்க. அவங்க இருந்து இன்னொரு ஏஜென்ட்டுக்கு அனுப்புனாங்க கேரளாவில். அவர் பேர் சாஜி. அவர் இருந்து துபாய்க்கு அனுப்புனாங்க மேடம். எப்படின்னா இது ஒரு செயின் குரூப்பு அந்த மாதிரி. இவங்க கொஞ்சம் பணத்தை எடுத்துகிட்டு அவங்களுக்கு அனுப்புறது, அவங்க இருந்து கொஞ்சம் பணத்தை எடுத்துகிட்டு அவங்களுக்கு அனுப்புறது. நீ அப்படி சொல்லக்கூடாது அப்படின்னு ஆர்மி செக்கிங்கில் வந்து 2 இடத்துல செக் பண்ணுறாங்க. அங்கே கேட்குறாங்க பணம் கொடுத்து வந்தியா.
The Department of Defense requires that contractors ask workers whether they paid recruitment fees. But it isn't hard to see why so few people are comfortable telling the truth.
ஆர்மி சோல்ஜர்ஸ் கேட்குறாங்க, நேவி சோல்ஜர்ஸ் கேட்குறாங்க. இல்லை சார் அப்படின்னு சொல்லி தான் ஆகணும், இல்லைன்னா நாங்கள் அவ்வளோ பணம் கட்டினது வேஸ்ட்டாக போயிடும், இல்லை ரிட்டர்ன் அனுப்பி விட்டுருவாங்க.
நீங்கள் என்ன சொல்லுவீங்க யூஎஸ் கவர்மெண்ட் கிட்ட?
பணம் கொடுத்துட்டு போயிருக்கோம், இல்லைன்னு சொன்னோம்னா நீ ஏன் பணம் கொடுத்துட்டாங்க, பணம் கொடுக்காம ஏன் வந்த, பணம் கொடுத்துட்டு ஏன் வந்த அப்படின்னு சொல்லி சப்போஸ் வெளியே அனுப்பிட்டாங்களா, அதனால பயந்துக்கிட்டு அவங்க.
Did the contractors not know that their employees were trapped in debt? Or did they condone these abuses because they benefited in some way? To figure that out, we had to retrace the path of these workers to the city nearly everyone had traveled through, Dubai.
Protesters are gathering
There's an
again.
air of tension right now.
Chanting for democracy. This is another significant development.
We have an exclusive story tonight, and we go live.
இங்கே ஒன்றுமே கிடையாது. இங்கே ஏற்றி விட்டுறான் போ, மாடை ஏற்றுற மாதிரி ஏற்றி விட்டுறான் போன்ட்டு. இப்போ அக்ரிமெண்ட் பேப்பர் காமிக்க மாட்டான், வாயில் சொல்லுவான் நல்ல சம்பளம்னுவான். ஆனால் துபாயில் போய் தங்க வச்சு அங்கே தான் போய் மெடிக்கல் போடுவோம்.
Dubai is critical. You'll see most of the contractors have their headquarters and are incorporated in Dubai.
Sam McCann is a former Army JAG officer who served in Iraq and Afghanistan. For the last several years, he's campaigned to reform the military contracting system.
And when it comes to Dubai, people wonder why. Why would someone take them across the ocean if there wasn't a contract? It gets into human trafficking. The trafficker gets paid when they leave India. At the airport, the trafficker gets his commission. It doesn't matter if they have a job over there.
Subcontractors like PPI and Ecolog run their Middle East operations out of Dubai. They keep labor camps here to house workers en route to military bases. And their recruiting agents have camps here too.
துபாய் கேம்ப் வந்து ரொம்ப குளிரும், ரூம் மட்டும் கொடுத்தாங்க. ஒரு ரூமில் வந்து 10-12 பேர் இருப்போம். அதுக்கடுத்து சாப்பாடு வரும், ரைஸு இந்த மாதிரி தான் வரும். சப்பாத்தி கொடுப்பான், 1-2 இருக்கும். எதுக்கு கேட்க முடியாது, எனக்கு சரியில்லைன்னு சொல்ல மாட்டோம், அப்போ வீட்டுக்கு பண்ணுறோம். ரொம்ப அடிமை மாதிரி தான் இருந்தோம், ரொம்ப ஃபெசிலிட்டியே கிடையாது.
எந்த இடத்துல
அந்த சொன்னாங்க சோனாபூரா என்ன சொன்னாங்களே அந்த கேம்ப் தான். பெரிய பெரிய ஃபில்டிங்கே இருக்கும், லேபர்ஸ் கேம்ப்னு சொல்லுவாங்க அது பேர். அங்கே
Away from the dazzling towers of Dubai, a sprawling labor camp known as Sonapur is home to hundreds of thousands of migrant workers from South Asia. In Hindi, Sonapur means city of gold, but in reality, it's more of a shanty town. It's this pool of labor that American subcontractors dip into to find workers for U.S. military bases in Afghanistan.
இந்த ரூமில் பார்த்தா ஒரு 30-40 பேர் அடைச்சி வச்ச மாதிரி அந்த மாதிரி இருந்தாங்க. ஒன்று ஒரு ஆள் மேலே ஒரு ஆள் இந்த மாதிரி தான் ஒட்டி ஒட்டி படுக்கணும். டிஸ்டன்ஸே இல்லாமல் கீழே தான் பாயை விரித்து கீழே தான் படுத்துங்கிறது அந்த மாதிரி தான் நடந்தது.
There was one small room and we were like 35 to 40 people in one room, but basically that room is capable only for the 3 people.
What would happen if someone tried to apply for a job directly with Ecolog?
They will not respond yet. Some of my friends, they send email but they never responding. And there is only one way, we have to come through agent.
அப்புறம் அந்த ஏஜெண்ட்டு அங்குள்ள துபாய் ஏஜெண்ட்டுக்கிட்ட அவர் வந்து எல்லாரையும் ரிட்டர்ன் அனுப்பிட்டு இருந்தார். துபாயில் எங்கள் ரூமில் இருந்தவங்க ரிட்டன் டிக்கெட் போட்டு அனுப்பிட்டு இருந்தாங்க. விசா எக்ஸ்பைரி ஆகிறவங்கள ஃபுல்லாக அனுப்பிட்டு இருந்தாங்க. நான் ஒரு ஏஜென்ட்கிட்ட சொல்கிறேன், நீ கண்டிப்பாக எங்களை அனுப்பி ஆகணும் சார், இல்லைனாக்கா நான் இங்கேருந்து பில்டிங் வந்து கீழே குதிச்சிருவேன்.
The typical business model, I'll call it, that's used by the Gulf subcontractors is they'll go to India or Nepal or the Philippines or Kenya and they'll link up with a recruiter. They work out first the above the board terms. And then there's the below the board agreement, which is the kickback.
We needed to speak to someone intimately familiar with the arrangements between subcontractors and their agents. In Afghanistan, Ravi had given us the name of the recruiter in Dubai who connected him to Ecolog. To get this agent to talk to us openly, my producer and I posed as employees of a subcontractor looking to hire Indian workers.
How are you?
We set up a meeting with the agent near his office and filmed it using 2 hidden cameras.
Hello, how are you? Anjali, so nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
He told us his credentials.
I think you have known Ecolog, and I have supplied more than 7,000 people to Ecolog. I am supplying every category of people to Ecolog. And I had sent more than 2,000 and plus people to Supreme also.
And if they have to stay in Dubai, where will they stay?
We will have a labor camp over here.
Where is it, in City, the main city? Or?
No, mostly people are keeping just some like Sonapur area which live near to live, apart from the city.
I asked the agent about his contract with Ecolog, and he told me something incredible. Ecolog does not pay him any money directly. The money he makes comes entirely from the fees paid by job candidates. And he explained, subcontractors take a cut from those fees.
There are some of the companies like Ecolog and other, we have only an agreement with them that they will pay us $300 per person. But in fact, they are not paying anything for us. That is just to show for their main contractor.
Yeah, so it would be a no-fee contract.
Yeah, because they are not allowed to charge any money for the worker. No? So there are some of the companies which they are charging $100-200 also from the agency.
Yeah. This agent even offered to pay me money if we hired workers from his camp. $100 to $200 for each worker we could find a job for in Afghanistan.
Yeah, we can give $100. I told you, from $100 to $200 they are giving.
Workers aren't only paying a recruiter. They are unknowingly paying their employer, the subcontractor, for the privilege of having a job.
The men are traded and sold just like chattel. They're things, they're commodities to be used. So the only one who is not making money is the worker who's providing the labor. Everyone else, the recruiter, the subcontractor, the prime contractor, they're all making a lot of profit. But most of it's coming from this worker who cannot afford it.
And how much money are we talking about?
Now, according to the government records, it shows that those subcontractors are making anywhere between 70 and 300% profits.
Subcontractors make these kind of profits by billing prime contractors at rates far higher than their actual costs.
Let's say I'm PPI, and I tell them I'll give you laborers to pick up your trash and clean your toilets, and I'm only going to charge you $6 an hour. That seems fair and reasonable. I get the award because I say $6 an hour. I know I'm only going to pay the worker $1.65 an hour. So most of the difference between $1.65 and $6 is my profit. About 90% of that amount is profit.
Prime contractors like Floor could hire workers directly for less. But the way the system is set up, they actually have an incentive to use subcontractors that overcharge. That's because the government has agreed to reimburse prime contractors for all of their costs and then pay them a percentage of that total as a fixed profit.
So the economic advantage is to incur as many costs as you can legitimately do so. The prime contractors make millions of dollars in additional profits by subcontracting it out.
So the US government is subsidizing human trafficking?
No, we're paying for it directly. This is the only form of human trafficking where the taxpayer directly pays the human trafficker.
Still I'm working with Ecolog. It's from 2005 to till now. Now they are the largest supplier in Afghanistan. And now, in this year only, we supply 8,000 people per floor from Ecolog.
So Floor and DynCorp know that you're supplying Ecolog with workers.
When we reached out to Floor, the company said it holds subcontractors in Afghanistan to a, quote, zero-tolerance policy regarding trafficking in persons. Ecolog told us it's against company policy for any employee to pay a recruitment fee, and that all of its policies are fully aligned with US government requirements. The Department of Defense has not responded to repeated requests for comment. In the last few years, the Pentagon, Congress, and the Obama administration have all issued rules designed to stop trafficking on military contracts, but those rules have never been enforced.
Even though this is against US law, there have been no criminal prosecutions, There have been no civil actions. There have not even been one contractor that was suspended from getting additional government contracts, even though everyone, including the government, has been aware that they're engaged in human trafficking.
Today, there are nearly 40,000 third country nationals working on bases operated by U.S. Central Command in Afghanistan, Iraq, and elsewhere. But even as the United States winds down its wars, these workers remain critical to American facilities around the world.
The problem doesn't go away because we're still going to have needs of support both for Department of Defense and Department of State. Now they're starting to use third country nationals for base support operations in Djibouti and other parts of Africa as well.
திருப்பிலாம் போக சான்ஸே கிடையாது. ஏன்னா இந்த மாதிரி ஏஜென்ட்கிட்ட ஏற்கனவே நம்பி ஏமாந்துட்டு சம்பளம் கொடுக்கல. எனக்கு அங்கே வந்து டார்ச்சர் தாங்க முடியல. 9 மாதம் ஒர்க் பண்ணேன். நான் ரொம்ப வரும்போதெல்லாம் சபிச்சுட்டு தான் வந்தேன். உண்மையை சொல்லுறது என்ன, அந்த கேம்பை அழிஞ்சிருன்னு சொல்லிட்டு தான் வந்தேன்.